Hey guys, it's Amber from NotableInk.com, and I'm going to show you how to layer stamp with a silhouette stamp set, so one that doesn't have layers. This is a fun technique and it's going to add extra dimension to your silhouette stamp. So we're going to be using Thistle by Ellen Hutson. It's from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I have the stamp and the dies, but we're not actually going to use the dies today. You can do this technique with blocks, however I find it much easier to do with a MISTI or a stamp positioner. So I've loaded in one of the stems and I'm completely inking it up with frayed leaf. All of the colored inks are going to be from Altenew today. I'm an Altenew educator, so that's the ink line that I have. And I'm going to leave that stamp in the same place. This time I'm going to ink it up with moss, but I'm lightly pouncing it on there. So I'm not fully inking up the stamp. And you're going to see once I press this down, only a few areas actually got ink on them. So I'm kind of rock and rolling it. I didn't get any of the moss on the center of the stem, so I'm using the edge of the ink pad to add just a little bit of that darker green there, and you can see that there. Now if you do get any harsh lines, you can use either just your stamp chamois or a paper towel or sponge dauber or something soft to soften the edges of that, and I'll show you I do that later on in the video. So I'm going to speed up these two stems, but I wanted you to see it a couple times. So again, just rock and roll that darker color, and then we'll move on to the tops here. So all of the green areas are the same colors. So this is frayed leaf, again, fully inking up that silhouette stamp set. And now I'm just rocking and rolling it across one side and a little bit of the top to add just a little bit of dimension there. Now this is actually the only layer stamp in this set, this one element here. This adds details to kind of the base of the thistle. And so this stamp will only be stamped once, and I'll completely ink it up in moss because we already have the base layer and frayed leaf underneath it. So this is going to add that perfect amount of detail to this stamp set. So for the smaller bloom, there isn't that detail stamp. So like I said, that was the only layer stamp. This one doesn't have that. So I've inked it up in frayed leaf, and then I'm going to rock and roll with moss and create my own texture on this one stamp. And you can see that's a similar look. I didn't get it close enough to the stem, so I'm just going to come in with a frayed leaf Altenew marker, which is the same color as the ink pad, and just fill that in. So now we'll move on to the blooms. I'm going to ink it up first in baby pink, which is from the Spring Bouquet family, and fully inked up. And then I'm going to rock and roll in magenta, and I'm going to rock and roll a third time with Cosmic Berry. So the greens that I used were from different color families, and so that was inked up almost completely. So here I'm going to take my stamp chamois and just wipe away. I'm going to blot away a little bit of the ink from the center of the stamp so that I just catch the top right side, and the bottom is the only thing that gets darker. For my Cosmic Berry, I'm just going to rock it just a little bit on the bottom, tiny bit on the right hand side there. And you can see that's going to add so much more dimension to this stamp, which I think is so beautiful. And so when I added my Cosmic Berry, I lost a little bit of my mid-tone, which was my magenta. So I'm coming in with magenta again and just adding a little bit more to the center there to just have a nicer blend. So when I do stamping like this, I do like to look at a realistic image just for color reference, texture reference. I feel like I get a much better result if I look at a realistic photo and do my stamping based on that. So I'm going to show you again, and I left this in real time so that you could see better how I'm inking up the stamp. You know, a lot of times I'll angle the stamp pad, so I'll kind of rock and roll it around just the edges, or maybe just the top one side and the bottom. So here we have the magenta, and then we'll come in with our Cosmic Berry, and that's mostly going to be at the bottom. And so here I went definitely more heavy-handed with the Cosmic Berry here, and so, but I like it. I'm going to leave that there, and then we'll do a little bit lighter handed over on the left here. And I make an error here, so I'm going to show you how I fix that before I stamp it. So I'm inking up with the magenta, And when I go in to ink up with the Cosmic Berry, I ink up the wrong side of the stamp. So right now I have my shadow on the right side of this bloom, and then when I'm putting on this Cosmic Berry, I'm inking up the opposite side. So that would look weird if I went ahead and stamped it like that. I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off. I'll ink up the correct side, and then that'll look a lot better. So it would have just looked like a dark outline all the way around the bloom, which would have looked strange. So here I'm using my stamp ceramic to just blot away and soften some of the edges because I had some harsh lines in there. And then again, I'm going to add a little bit more of the magenta because I have a pretty dark line of the Cosmic Berry. There you can see I just used the edge of the stamp, so I'm going to use my stamp chamois to blot it away, and then that'll just soften up that line a little bit. So that's how you can use your silhouette stamp. So another good stamp set to maybe do this with, this is the Totally Random Sayings Volume 2, also from Ellen Hutson. And I'm going to stamp a large sentiment, a large word, and then a sub-sentiment. And then I trimmed off the bottom because my stems didn't go all the way to the bottom of the page. And I'm going to put some black and white striped paper down there. So this is Altenew Jet Black Ink Spray. I find I consistently get good results if I just tap this, take out the nozzle, knock off the majority of the ink back into the bottle, and then just tap it a couple times. I get a really nice random pattern. And so this is paper that I just printed on my laser printer. So I will link a post below that I did on printing your own pattern paper. I really don't like stamping that much black ink. You know, like you stamp and you stamp and you stamp. So I just print it. It prints out really well in my laser printer. I just print out a full 8.5 by 11 sheet, and then I cut it up as I need it. And I'm just going to trim it off along the back. And then I'm not going to add any dimension to this card. I'm going to put our stamped panel just directly down on it. And I just really love how this card turned out. Now, I have another version. It's the same setup, different sentiments, but I also, for my diagonal stripe, the black and white stripe, I have a thinner strip of that. I'm going to show you in just a sec. So let me know down below which one you prefer. I think I prefer the thinner strip of diagonal paper, but I go back and forth. I don't know. I think they're both beautiful. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this project today and this technique. So this is definitely something that you can do. Like if you have the Wildflower set from Tim Holtz, that would be another one, another good silhouette set. That might be good to try this out with. But there's lots of different solid silhouette stamps that you can do this with. So take a look through your stash and give this technique a try. If you do, I'd love to see what you make. Tag me at Notable Ink on Instagram and Facebook. And it would totally help me out if you liked and subscribed down below so that YouTube gets this out to other people. As always, supplies are linked below. Thanks again for joining me, and until next time, breathe, ink, inspire.